Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
Hey friends, and welcome back to another episode of Genuine Business Stories, where we have real front porch chats that inspire success. Today's episode is one I've been looking forward to, because we're pulling back the curtain on a part of the insurance industry that most people never see. But it's absolutely critical to get deals done. I've got Ashley Govea with me from Risk Placement Services, also known as RPS. Ashley works on the excess and surplus side of the business, meaning when agents like me cannot place a risk in the standard market, we go to somebody like Ashley to find solutions. So if you've ever wondered what happens behind the scenes with your business, insurance is your real challenge. It's hard to place in some cases. And when we have tough risk, then we need an MGA, a Master General Agency, and somebody like Ashley to help us with this. Ashley, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Great, glad to have you. So let's start here. Tell me a little bit about insurance in your life before RPS. What did you do? Where are you originally from? That kind of stuff. And what put you into insurance?
They say nobody looks to get into insurance. You just kind of fall into it. And that's pretty much every story I've ever heard of anybody who's been in insurance. It was a family thing or whatever. I am originally, I was born in Dallas, Texas. I went to 16 schools in 5 states and then came back when I was 16. And I've just kind of been in the DFW area ever since. But insurance for me started when I was I think it was 21. Yeah, it was like 2006. I was a single mom and I needed a job. And my aunt was an underwriter, so she got me a job at Texas All Risk. I was pulling they called them easy raters. They were like submissions offline, and I would assign them to the underwriters, but it was like physical paper. So I'd print it off and then go put it in the underwriter's basket. And then from there, I moved into policy typing. And then I did underwriting assistant, then renewal, and now new business. So I've done it all.
So as we get into the show, this show is important to our small businesses, and we are a small business podcast. So if you would kind of help tie in so that small businesses are tuning in, understand why this show is important to them, let's discuss a little bit about some of the risks that you're going to see that I might bring in and go, Ashley, I can't write this. A standard market being, we'll say a Liberty Mutual, a Chubb, a Nationwide, normal markets you might go to. Then if they don't want a certain risk as you go through this, then we come to you. What are some of the risks that you might see? So if somebody's out there, they're getting their insurance done, maybe it's a roofer or others, what are some of the type things that you would see so those businesses know, oh, this actually applies to me?
All of it. If it doesn't fit a standard market, I want to look at it. My specialty is the binding authority. So which small businesses, the Main Street business, I do your contractors, I can do your, apartments, your houses, like landlord policies, I think is what they call them on the standard side. I can do, shopping centers, the lesser's risk part of it. I can write all the tenants. Contractors are my bread and butter. Love contractors, but everybody does. Just really, if you have a business that Liberty Mutual, Hartford, Travelers, whatever says no to, I can do it.
And in some cases, that might be a pool contractor that actually builds pools.
Mm-hmm.
Or
I have
it could
a couple
be
of
a
those.
roofer that falls into this. And some of what we see, we might find, per se, a security company. Their commercial auto may go standard.
Mm-hmm.
Their workers' comp may go standard.
Mm-hmm.
But then you start hitting into their general liability and inland marine and then that stuff. So you may have a policy group that's split where you get some of that business also, where we have to use a couple of different means.
Yeah, absolutely. If typically for most risks, unless they're, a massive trucking risk or, they're hazardous, renting cars or whatever, most auto will fit into the standard market. like I said, there's going to be, driver exceptions or whatever. So typically, it is not uncommon for the auto to be with standard or the work comp to be with standard, and then their GL and excess to be on the surplus line side. So that's happens all the time.
We notice as we break into this, a lot of people they don't understand that. And as underwriters, people also don't realize underwriters look at everything.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen cases where somebody has said, I'm not in business. And that underwriter comes back and says, why is there a review for last month on this business? And then it becomes the explanation of the person is getting ready to ramp their business up. Mm-hmm. And they're told, put reviews on things, put your website out there. And that website doesn't look like I'm starting in 2 weeks. It looks as if you've been started.
Yes.
But then there's the explanation back to you guys as to why this looks the way it is. And get me loss runs. Yep. There are no loss runs for this, but I need loss runs. I can give you a statement of no loss, but there are no loss runs.
Yes. Underwriters, we do look at everything. We look at social medias. We look at, there's the Secretary of State website. We Google. Google is free. And boy, do I live in Google. Yeah. Because, I had one, it was, we'll call it ABC Excavation. And they were a trucking risk. And I'm like, well, why is their name excavation if they're truckers? Well, they used to be, an excavation risk. And then they just didn't want to change the LLC, which I get that a lot. Once you form an LLC, you don't want to change it. And I actually did the research and they were no longer excavating. They were truckers. So I was like, all right, great. So we do look at that just mainly because, one, we don't want to be put on a risk that we didn't intend to cover. We are going to deny that claim. If it happens and we didn't know about it, it could get denied. It's not definitely going to get denied, but it's going to cause you problems. But also, I need to know how to best protect you. Give me everything you're doing, and I will find you a quote that covers as much as I can. And I can let you know up front, hey, X, Y, and Z is excluded from your policy. Are you okay with that? Some insureds are like, I don't care. I just want to go work, at this oil field or whatever. Yeah. So letting me know everything helps me encompass it. And if they want to exclude operations, well, there's a form where we can actually exclude operations. Not every carrier allows you to exclude every operation, but it helps me find you one that fits what's best for your business. Because ultimately, we are here to protect you. I know everyone's like, insurance is a scam. And, they hate it. Yeah, they hate it until they need it. But ultimately, it is my job to protect the insured. And obviously my carriers, I'm the middleman. So I got to protect both. But, small businesses have my heart. My husband's a small business owner. His friends are small business owners. Small businesses have my heart. So I really do everything I can to protect them.
Well, sometimes I also notice with the small businesses, they go to name their business. Your mind is what catches my customers. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily the business that you do all the time. Mm-hmm. I've got one that is named after a transport company. We write them under excavation because 60% of their business is excavation and 40% is where they're bringing dirt into job sites and carrying clean fill sometimes or other fill out from. So they do some transporting. Mm-hmm. But their receipts, if we're not adding to, it depends upon the carrier as to whether you're adding to risk. And for our customers, that second risk could be the first one is excavation, and then there's another code for transport.
And a lot of the times, because when it comes to transportation GL, we actually don't rate payroll for the drivers because their exposure is auto, and they're covered on the commercial auto. So typically we'll just write the truckers, if any, who cares, because it's usually going to be owner only anyways. And all the real work is done by, their excavation employees. So the trucking GL portion is usually stupid cheap.
So what did you do before RPS?
Before RPS, I worked at another MGA. And I actually worked on the retail side a little bit. So I went MGA retail. I just kind of, but I'm firm on the MGA side. I spent a lot of time on the MGA side. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to go back to retail. And then I did. And I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Well, retail's easier on renewals.
Yeah, but just you guys, I respect you guys so much because of everything that you guys have to do, because you guys do a lot. The certificates of insurance, just you need to hire someone just to do certificates of insurance because that's all they do all day. But I really respect agents because you guys hustle hard. I'm in a cushy office in my house.
I laugh sometimes when people think, you own your own business, you're doing pretty good. And I go, that paycheck was a lot healthier when I was in leadership with larger insurance companies than what we see here.
Yes, it's hard. It's a hustle, but I love it and I respect it.
So let's kind of break down. You went to retail. So what did you do on the retail side?
I was actually just a CSR. I was never an agent. I was a CSR, so I'm the one that did the marketing for the new business. I'm the one that, called you on your renewals. I did your certificates of insurance. I did, the servicing if you needed to add a vehicle or take away a vehicle or, whatever the case may be. I basically did everything except go out and get new business.
So you dealt with agents that weren't very nice a lot.
So my mentor that really threw me in, her name is Jennifer Melton. And I'm probably going to send this to her whenever we're done because I love her so much. She actually put me through the ringer. It was whenever my first retail job, and I knew nothing. Like all I did was like policy typing at an MGA before. And I got that job. The owner, I guess, picked up my resume and was like, is she available? Hire her. Literally the grace of God got that job. So we were kind of stuck with each other because I was a single mom and I needed money and she needed help. So we figured it out. But I would mess up, obviously. She would come in there and what is this? And this is not how you do this, and yell and scream and then leave the room. And then she'd come back in 5 minutes later. Hey, do you want to go get Starbucks? I'm like, yeah, I can be bought with coffee. So, I really just it was sink or swim. And, one day, even she said it. She goes, it's like one day you came in and you sat down and it just clicked and you knew how to do it. And I was like, yeah. So,
many years ago, my first career was in drafting in the oil field. And I remember learning that system actually in my sleep one night when I started school. It was AutoCAD, that you're going in and you're trying to figure out how you're going to do it in the job site because they're teaching you everything. And I was actually asleep whenever all of a sudden I woke up and I get it.
It's when all the best ideas come, is when you're asleep.
Exactly. Now that I'm older, I don't dream much. I just pray I sleep. So now that you're on the wholesale side, so tell me a little bit about that. You're the broker side. I know that I call you. You also will serve as my underwriter, and before we ever hit the other side, and you'll take stuff I bring in for companies, and then you'll go out and shop to other companies. And that's one of the things that with my small business customers, it's a challenge sometimes to get them to understand. You bring me a standard case, then I may ask you for no more than a week. You bring me a case that's going E&S, then I'm going to ask you for 2 weeks to a month. And
well, I hope it doesn't take that. Sometimes it can't take that long, but I hope it doesn't. For most cases, it doesn't take that long.
As busy as my underwriters get,
I'm not
I tell people to give me a month.
And that is actually appreciated because I do have carriers that...
You may bring me something, and I might go, Ashley, this isn't going to work. Look at the exclusion in here. We need to... And it's something I might not have thought about until we start going through it. Then we're going, look what they excluded in here.
Yep.
I forget which policy it was. It was actually a business policy where when we went through, they were going to write it. And I read the fact they excluded the main part of the business. And it's like...
Yeah, that's a Kinsale policy.
You said it. I'm not making them mad.
No, Kinsale is great at bailing you out. I mean, they will if, but you do have to be careful of their exclusions. But no, Kinsale, great bailout carrier if you just need coverage. But yeah, so insurance is is a hierarchy, okay, right? There's the insured that goes to the agent. And then the agent has carriers that they can write directly, your standard markets, and then it'll stop there. But if it doesn't fit your standard markets, then the agent has to go to the underwriter. And just like an agent, I have carriers that I can write in-house and get you a quote and everybody's happy. But then there's carriers, if it doesn't fit them, then I have to go to another underwriter. And that underwriter is now who I'm depending on, and I'm a control freak, so I will do it. But most underwriters at the carrier level, even they understand that this is a quick turnaround game. Some carriers are faster than others, so do you need cheap or do you need fast? And I'll get you fast and then say this may not be the cheapest, but I've got so and so coming. They usually take this long to respond. So it really is knowing. Like, I have to know my underwriters to tell you how long to expect a quote, so you can tell, the insured. It kind of rolls uphill then back down. And that's why communication is so important in this industry, because insureds don't know anything about insurance. All they know is they have to have it to run their business. So the more you educate your insured, the more, they understand, and the less angry they are that you can't just pull a quote for a roofer that has $1 million claim, out of your bum tomorrow. It's the communication, the education part.
So let's talk a little bit, because I think a lot of businesses don't understand this. The one thing that I try to tell companies, when we shop to fix your insurance, I need the best description of your business possible. Mm-hmm. They're hurried. They'll give you something quick. I'll have to go back and go, that's not what I asked you for. From your side, kind of tell our audience why it is so important that when I ask a small business, give me a very good description. I want to know exactly what you do, that it's not a gotcha. It's the better description you get, the more affordable we can make those rates for them, because the more that you work with, the better. But if you could kind of give them an explanation, I know sometimes small businesses are busy and they think that an insurance agent is wasting their time instead of understanding. It is exactly what I've told you.
Yeah. And we did kind of touch on it a little bit. The more I know about your business, one, the more I can negotiate your rate. Because most of the time I can go back to a carrier if I know where I need to be to win the business. I can go back to the carrier and ask for credits, or we can get creative on the underwriting side. The standard market kind of just spits out a quote, and that's what you get. With E&S, we do get to get a little bit creative. So the more I know about your business, most importantly, the more I can protect you. And the more we're all aware of what we're getting into. Because like I said, if you're doing A, B, and C, you know what? I can get you a quote for A and B, but C is going to be excluded. Because, if I add these on, it's going to be an extra $50,000 in premium or whatever. Like, it helps us formulate a plan for, your growth as an insured, because maybe you're just starting out now. Okay, keep it, conservative, but let me know what you plan on doing. That way, when you get a contract, you don't have to go back to your agent and say, oh, is this covered? And then now I'm scrambling to be like, I don't know, is it? And then, because some carriers will put on what they call classification limitations, which is basically if those operations aren't on the policy, then they're not covered. So we got to watch out for those. And so the more I know, the more I can get covered, because inevitably what happens is there's a claim on the not covered operations. And then that's when insureds really are like, what am I paying for? And so the more you tell me, the more I can tell you what you're paying for and what you're not paying for, most importantly. And it helps us, on that end. And also, I might have like a contractor that does remodeling. Well, once a year he does roofing. He'll do like a new roof. Well, for some carriers, if their roofing operations are less than like 5 or 10% of their operations, we don't have to charge the roof minimum premium, which can be some are $4,000, some are $4,500. It kind of varies by carrier. But if it's one roof a year,
go away.
Summer, I'm not paying for that.
No, I mean, sometimes on the underwriting side, if you don't mention it,
and
then you do it, and there's a claim, it's a go away and figure it out.
Mhm.
Because you shouldn't have done
There
the
will be
business.
roofing exclusions. There's I've seen put like an open roof exclusion on a policy where if the roof is open and not properly covered or not properly like tarped over, it's not covered or whatever the exclusion says.
Websites.
Yes.
Websites are something that it's hard to get through. So let's get your take on this. I'll have a business, and the business owner side is I need to write everything I can. I'm brand new. If you're going to bring money to me and I'm capable of it, then I want to do it. The other side of this is if you put it on that website, a friend of mine that's an agent in a northern state, he's working with a general contractor. General contractor, after my friend takes the form, he slips in snow plows. General liability, commercial auto, all of a sudden my buddy is getting things. Do they work with snow plows? No. They're not going to go plow the roads. No, nothing with the city. They go back, he talks to his customer. Oh yeah, well, we're hoping to do that. So talk a little bit about the difference between hope and payoff, meaning what you're going to pay for that policy if you're not doing something yet, versus if you start working to do something, then as long as you're past your minimum earned premium, then we can work with you to change your policy. But I can want to do business all day long.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that I get to break into that. It may be I start putting feelers out and working something, and it's 8, 9, 10, maybe a year later before customers start going, oh, that person does that. So that's something that, talk to them a little bit about their website and social media and how that can affect their rates if they're not actually doing work on something.
So, especially with new ventures, like you said, they really want to do everything. They want whatever brings them money, and that's fine. Give me a list of what you want. We can put it, maybe on an if any basis. So at least, it's on there. But, like you said, if he goes, I'm a landscaper and then in the wintertime, I want to do snow plowing. Okay, let me find you a carrier that'll cover your snow plowing operations. Whatever is on the website, the carrier will hold you to. If it is on your website, you are advertising, which means there is an exposure. Because what if somebody calls you on that job? So, if you want it, like, we can add it to your policy. We can find you a policy. And then, once you've had a couple years in business and you know what you're actually doing, update your website. If you have been in business 3 years and you've never gotten a snow plowing job, take it off your website.
Talk about it, but don't put the public exposure out there.
Yeah.
You actually get the job. Don't go do it. Go back and talk to your agent.
And please don't post photos of you snow plowing on your Facebook so I can see that you actually had a job. Because we do. We look at your social medias. We look at your websites because we also don't want to get hit with an E&O. Because, oh, well, you should have known it was on my Facebook. Or, I told my agent about this. No, you didn't. Mm-hmm. So we can't cover what we don't know. And we also can't let you know what's not covered if we don't know.
And here's a news flash to any small businesses. You didn't tell your agent.
You
email your agent, and then you told your agent because that gives you documentation.
Yes.
You don't tell
document
your agent
everything.
Yeah. And I say that because as an agent, send it to me in writing.
Yes.
Then you and I both have it. It can go in your file.
Then when you say I told my agent, there is proof I told my agent.
That's exactly
so
right.
Definitely put everything in writing, document everything. But yeah.
So when I send you a submission, I get company XYZ. When you first see what I send you, when you look at it, when do you think good submission, or if he doesn't help, this thing's dead on arrival? I know you can look at him and go, we're not going to have anything to cover this, but when you look at it, what are you looking at that I'm sending you where you're going, okay, Clint, this was a good submission for this. You got me what I need. And when are you thinking, Clint, I really want to wring your neck?
So, I look for the complete submission, the Accord apps. If there's a supplemental, if you have lost runs, great. If it's a large property schedule, send me a schedule of values, an SOV. And we won't even worry about Accords because once you get to so many, those are a pain. But
you won't worry about them. I still get emails to do them.
Once we bind, we'll worry about it. But, for now, like for quoting purposes, as long as I have the information I need. So I'm looking, at your description of operations. If you just put on there roofer, I'm going to have more questions. Okay, what kind of roofing? Is it commercial? Is it residential? Does he got subs? Like, I'm always going to have more questions. Every contractor is going to require supplemental, which will have all the questions I need on it. So, I get submissions with a name and an address and a PLZ for please quote and nothing else. And I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. So that one, maybe I might wring your neck if you send me something like that. But, as long as there's enough information on what they do, if they're a new venture, how many years experience do they have? Because most carriers want at least 3 years. If you send me loss runs that are from a standard market, okay, is it the standard market quoting? Are they offering renewal? So really just, I'm looking at how much information did you give me? And normally by the description of operations, I can tell you, yeah, I can quote this in-house, or it's going to be a minute because I have to go to a carrier. So I'm looking for the completion of your submission. How much information do I have to do my job? And I might have another question or two depending, but for the most part, that would be a submission that I would not delete.
And see, that's one thing that for small business owners, as busy as they are, that to fully understand the ability for an agent and his underwriter to protect you, you see this as a lot of questions that you don't want to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And what we see it is, the more information you'll give me, the better I can protect you. But once you provided me information, it does not mean that Ashley and the carriers she goes to for me won't have additional questions that we've got to bring back to you. But all of that information is completely about helping you to preserve your rates and keep your rates low.
Help me with my negotiating power,
Jerry Maguire, help me help you.
Help me help you. And also, if we have enough information to get you a quote, you'll see a lot of times that I'll quote subject to, make sure this is done, or make, I got your landscaper. Okay, here's your, quote for your landscaper, subject to him not doing any like right of way mowing, or, there'll be stuff where I'm like, I can just get that later, So, like I said, the more information I have, the more I can do that. And then if I send you the quote and it comes back and he's like, oh, he does, mow for the city, along this highway or whatever, then we can go back to the carriers and, kind of renegotiate. But it'll get you something in your hands that you can present to your insured. So they're not like, what's taking so long? I've got something. Will this work? No. Okay, give me a minute and I'm going to go back. And it happens all the time.
Yeah. So as we head in to talk a little bit more about the excess and surplus world, let's go through some companies so that as people are listening, they can see, I own this company, what their agent may be looking at. So when we go to roofing, that can be mostly E&S, right? There are some standard carriers, but the deeper you get into your roofing with your commercial and your residential, your new, your repairs, then that's going to creep further into what you're going to see in excess and surplus. So what are some other examples that businesses might see out there where their quote may not be? I mean, I get people all the time, I'm renewing tomorrow. Call another agent. I'm sorry. I've reached the point, if you're renewing tomorrow and you call me, but there are some agents that they've got the staff and they'll go ahead and go, okay, we'll do it. To me, a failure to plan also means you're shopping me with a lot of people. And I don't think that businesses understand, like your home and auto. If you call a home and auto agent, they've got a quote package system. They're putting your information in. It's running quotes and letting them know what to bring back to you.
Yes.
It's not that there aren't quote platforms, and I have one, but for most of the time, the minute it hits E&S, it's not just bringing me back quotes. So there is a lot of time consumption in there. But why is that stuff important to the businesses to understand? You need to plan and kind of walk through the time frame of getting it to you. And I'm not your only agent, everybody's
yes, you
assigned. It's too early. I haven't been drinking, actually. But this is important for it's the part that small businesses hate to talk about. We want to think about it once a year and then don't want to think about it anymore. I've got a quarterly conversation you're going to have with me.
Absolutely.
5 to 10 minutes it may be. You may be nothing's changed, and that conversation can be over. But let's talk a little bit also about the changes audits. That's something I want to get into a little bit. That we see.
They are a spot. So, from the business owner perspective, yes, you can go agent to agent and shop your renewal. But here's what happens. And I'm making these numbers up because I don't know them by heart. I should, because I use this example a lot. There are, let's say, 40,000 agents in Texas, okay? And they all have your standard markets. If you fit in the standard market, fine. But from an E&S perspective, there's, let's say, 40,000 agents in Texas. Well, when they have to go to MGAs, there's only 10,000 MGAs. And then for those MGAs, there's only 4,000 carriers. So the risk has a chance of getting to multiple underwriters from different agents. So, and it does happen, I will see the same submission from 3 or 4 different agents. And I'm not doing that. I'm not, as a business owner, develop a relationship with your agent. Let them get to know you, because you don't have to shop your insurance if you have an independent agent. If you have captive, maybe. But if you have an independent agent, you should never have to shop your insurance as a business owner. You shouldn't have to go agent to agent, because your agent is going to shop it for you. And if it's in the E&S market, I am going to shop it for you.
And here's a real quick question with that. In a lot of carriers, if you come to me and you don't tell me you're shopping me, can't we lock certain companies down? Meaning the minute they get your submission, it's first come, first serve.
Yes.
And then
yes, they will block it.
Not getting in there.
Correct. Most carriers, there are a couple of exceptions that are open brokerage. Most brokerage markets will block your submission, so the first one in. And so now you've gone to 3 agents who have gone to a blocked market. And I will tell you, if my best market is blocked, I'm not working on it. You're wasting everybody's time at the end of the day. And even as a business owner, you're wasting your own time. You don't have time to go, or maybe you do. I don't know your business. I don't know your life, but maybe you do have time to go to 3 or 4 agents. But at the end of the day, you don't have to. Find an agent, Clint, that, build that relationship and let them shop for you. Because I have, I don't know, maybe 50 carriers that I can go to. 20 of them are maybe binding authority. At RPS, whatever doesn't fit my binding or my light brokerage markets, I have a partner that I work with at RPS that will go shop it for you, that will handle it. I will put it in an expert's hands. So even as the MGA, I will shop it within RPS and make sure, I get a lot of apartment schedules, a lot of large dwelling schedules. I have a property brokerage team that's great. And if it's too big for me, I will let them handle it.
So how with...
And they shop it every year.
So when we're talking of property brokerage, you're talking about apartments and commercial, meaning retail.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, what breaks over to where apartment buildings? I bring you company XYZ. They've got 285 units on their property. It's gated. When do we know that goes E&S versus it's a standard market?
You just have to let the standard markets decline. Or even if it's not something, Texas isn't strict about getting the affidavits of declined standard carriers, but there are some states that require you to get 3 declinations from a standard market before you can go to E&S. So in Texas, like I said, we don't really care about that. But if it's E&S, the GL portion generally I can write. It's more property, like the building values. I have a TIV, a total insured value limit, that I can do within my authority. And then I've got one that I can go into light brokerage. And then I've got one where I'm like, this is just too much for me. And then I send it to a property broker, and that's all they do all day are large schedules, high values, multi-million-dollar properties, things like that. So.
And that's where you get into the age and other things. I brought you one recently, and by the way, I did get a call. We won that. I'm just waiting on a call. And we'll present on later in April or May for others in there.
Sweet.
But that's kind of one of those things that the building was just old enough, even though it was all metal, that standard carriers were going to pass. As an agent, I don't much agree with it. If you've got a metal roof and you're not covering cosmetic, I'm sorry, as a whole, that is not going to create any problems. I'm looking to even build with metal roofs and siding because I'm getting up in age, and I'm not old yet, but by the time I would have this as a retirement home, I don't want maintenance that starts at about year 10 to 15. That's in there. But there are carriers that go, oh, I don't want a metal roof. What do you mean you don't want a metal roof? That's ridiculous. Why would you want a composition roof that, I get hail on a metal roof, and if I don't cover cosmetic, sorry, there's some dents in there, but that roof is still good. You get hail on a composition or asphalt roof, and you got a problem you got to repair. But I think those are some that can also kick people to your side is the metal roof, because some carriers are a little funny about it and go, we don't like it.
And in some counties, they won't write metal roofs. Like, they're fine with metal roofs, in DFW, but not in like Beaumont or whatever. So the building construction and stuff like that, E&S has always written what the standard market doesn't want. And standard markets fluctuate. Sometimes they want to write, metal roofs. Sometimes they don't, or sometimes they want to write this. And on the E&S side, we do, we had one where I did lose it to, a standard market because they're starting to come back. Well, in a couple of years when they get off, we'll be here. We've always been writing it. So, it's rare that an E&S market will just like completely pull out of something. They might raise rates, but to like completely pull out of something, because that's what we do. If we don't write it, nobody will. So, all this stuff that the standard markets are starting to take back, eventually they will get back off of, and we will be here to write it. It's the ebb and flow of the market. It's fine. But, just because the standard market doesn't want it doesn't mean it's uninsurable. And I think some insureds think, well, Liberty Mutual and Hartford won't write it, so I can't get it insured. Yes, you can.
And it doesn't always mean that it's unaffordable also.
Yeah. I beat State Farm. No.
So let's give some plain English. What are kind of some of the things that will drive something to the excess and surplus? Because the key word in this isn't just uninsurable. It is excess and it is surplus. So, there are sides where there's nothing wrong with your business.
Right.
Just your standard market goes, you concern us a little bit because you take more risk. That business still has to be done for those small businesses. So let's talk about that a little bit so people don't freak out. Because one of the things when I talk to customers about, well, if take excess and surplus, well, that's not like your rates are going to be okay. But initially
it'll be fine.
they've talked to their buddy that's talked to their buddy, and then the next thing you know, it's like, how am I even going to be in business? And I do a chunk of business with you, and I don't see a lot of difference when I have to bring something. There is a difference, but it's not a difference where it's unaffordable.
Right. Most of the difference between the standard and non-standard is, aside from all like the state rate filing stuff, like this, the standard market will offer a bunch of like bells and whistles that maybe E&S. We have some, but not all, which is fine. Most people are like, whatever, who cares? But as far as like the risk goes, we're not afraid of losses. If the standard market's getting off of it because they've had some losses, we're here to write it. I have a restaurant that had a $1 million fire loss. It was being rebuilt. I got it written because it's E&S, and that's what we do. So don't be afraid to tell your agent you had some losses, because because
they're gonna find,
we're gonna find out. Like, eventually you might get away with it for a year or two, but we're gonna find out. Because again, it's that hierarchy where, we saw this submission last year and there was $1 million, fire loss. How come this app says no losses? And then now, because they probably didn't tell you, the agent, now you got to go back and have that conversation. So, be upfront about your losses. We're okay with it. It's not a problem. Unless it's open and it gets a little problematic, but but that's fine. Just some of the riskier stuff. I didn't even know Standard Markets wrote roofing. So that was new to me because I just assumed, because if I'm a Standard Market, I don't want a roofer. The claims, it's a lot. A Standard Market they like the easy, the Main Street, the retail business, the office exposure, the easy stuff that everybody loves. We all love it. But when you start getting into stuff where you can seriously damage someone's property or you can seriously hurt somebody, then it's going to come E&S. And
to me, from the Standard Markets, the most easy way I find to explain it to a customer is if an underwriter doesn't understand it, they don't want it.
Exactly.
And it's not that they can't understand it. It's a business model. This is what we take in our company. This is what I'm going to know. This is my business. This is what I need every day. And when you call me about this, Mr. Agent, Miss Agent, then I'm going to know it. But if we stray outside of that, it's generally where they're going, that's not in our appetite and we don't want it.
Yeah.
Where when I bring stuff to you, you get paid to know the stuff that nobody wants to know. And even though you do know the stuff they do know, there's that whole realm of you work in a business that people just don't want to know about. They just want you to do it. And it doesn't mean it's a bad business. It's a good business for you.
Yeah. I mean, most contractors are going to be E&S. Unless they're like a little painter or something very like low risk, but you get into the heavier stuff, you're going to be E&S. And it's not that you picked a bad business or whatever. It's just Standard Markets have a safety checkbox, right? And like, okay, this risk is safe. The chances of me paying out a claim is slim to none. They have their little like, okay, they don't do this, and this, so they're fine. Whereas, on E&S, we can get a little bit more creative. And we can take on more risk. We can get, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but yeah.
I just had a thought that probably shouldn't have Mike Rowe, the dirtiest jobs. He does deadliest catch. And I thought, I wonder what agent is doing some of those jobs that you look at. Then unfortunately, I look at with a different set of eyes than you do than normal people. And you're going, who is paying them to get down in that vessel that is sealed up and clean that out? And
I'd rather insure it than do it.
Yeah. So, the one thing that I also think that is hard for people to understand, just because something gets declined doesn't mean that deal is dead.
Correct.
So if you're using a captured standard carrier and they've always done your business and you change it and then they say, I'm sorry, they've declined it, that does not mean you can't go and get that insured.
Right.
It just means that captured agent does not any longer have a market for it, and captured companies are pretty specific about what they want their agents writing commercial because they're wanting them doing a whole lot of home and auto.
Or they'll even, like I said, the Standard Markets, they start getting out of certain classes of business and you'll get non-renewed and you freak out. Even on the E&S side, if you get a non-renewal, do not freak out because we are shopping. We're not just going to be like, oh, well, you were non-renewed. No, I've got 40 other carriers that'll write it. Like, we got this.
Well, and there are some times that there are risks. Like we looked at before I brought you a company. That company for a year had to go E&S. Mm-hmm. It did cost them more. Mm-hmm. It was an unintentional mistake. Quite honestly, I'll tell you, it's the risk of using an online broker and not using a broker.
Yes.
The more AI takes hold, the more people think they can do it all. For those that are business owners or others, this isn't trying to make you mad, but most of you can't go write your home policy and get it right online. You need a broker to help you. Mm-hmm. AI is not going to do it for you. Nope. I use AI, but I know that AI has to be guided.
Mm-hmm. So got to be very specific.
You've got to be very specific. It can be very helpful, but we are still at that stage that it needs guidance. And it will tell you something. And you may go on to our certain and go, this is what my AI told me about my policy. No, that is not correct. Because those of us that do use some of the same stuff you do, our AI is learning us where to get the information, and we are coaching and teaching that AI back, going, that information you pulled me, that is incorrect. Right. This is more where I need you to lead. So it isn't just a go in, dump it into AI and think that you can you can go handle that job.
Because AI has not been doing this for 20 years.
No,
like
it
we
hasn't.
have.
So,
yeah.
what kind of carriers are you allowed to promote? I bring you stuff. Are there any carriers that you can talk about that people would know their names but not realize? I know that I've heard that name, Markel. People have heard of Markel.
We love Markel.
But
Markel,
we
great.
use them in E&S because I think a lot of times that scares people until you start breaking down some of the actual carriers that will write the excess and surplus size. Do you have a couple of those that we can feed to our customers so that they go, oh, yeah, I've heard of those?
Yeah, a lot of carriers will have an admitted and non-admitted side. Berkshire Hathaway is one. They have a lot of different carriers. I mean, I have 4 different carriers and they're all Berkshire Hathaway. And they've got like their 3 program is Berkshire Hathaway. They have like an admitted auto product. Auto is not my specialty, so forgive me for not knowing the name, but they have an admitted. But then they have NICO. NICO is Berkshire Hathaway. Westchester is probably one of my favorite carriers as well. And they are AIG.
Mm-hmm.
Their Chubb, their Western World also is AIG. Western World's AIG. I think they're all the same. I think Chubb, AIG, Ace, Westchester, they're all in that conglomerate.
Chubb is another one that I believe when the public hears, their mind is that's just a normal carrier, and they do not realize with Chubb how many non-standard carriers they actually own. That we will see in the paperwork when we write through, I believe it's Westchester's one, that will come below and say a Chubb company.
A Chubb company, yep. And Westchester's the writing paper. So it's a lot of companies. Markel, like you said, is one. I'm trying to think of standard markets so I can find the E&S version of it. But really, those are the ones that come to mind the most is Berkshire Hathaway. I believe Nautilus is one of my E&S carriers, but they're owned by a Berkeley company. And Berkeley also has an admitted side. I think Beasley is one of their admitted products. I believe they do like cyber and special events and stuff. But a lot of these companies are subsidiaries of well-known standard markets, or don't get me into like the hierarchy of which one owns who, because I was not prepared for that.
Well,
but they're all related.
Yeah, and that's the basis of this part of the conversation. When you say excess and surplus, business owners tend to, or E&S, even there for a little while, the homeowners market started clamping down on the standard side in the excess and surplus, that when you go through, not all of them, but some of them were still providing a pretty good product relative to you being able to afford that product. And people, I think, get surprised as to, oh, Chubb owns that. I've never heard of company XYZ, but I have heard of Chubb. And that can take, because some of my customers said, is that even a good company if you happen to take me this? Yeah, they're owned by. It's that lack of understanding of what they're not used to seeing that I wanted to make sure the customer knew, that a lot of times when your agent tells you, this is how we're taking this, or they don't tell you and they bring you back your quotes and you start looking at business names and go, I've never heard of this company. In many cases, they're owned by a company that you have heard of. Yes.
And, I'm actually glad that you said that about insureds asking if this is a good company. Because I know they have, like, I actually worked for a non-standard personal auto company for a little bit. And I understand if you have to go non-standard for like personal lines, I understand why you would think it's not a good company. On the E&S side, we only work with A-rated carriers. So you are only going to get A, and whatever plus or minuses or come after it or before it, we only work with A-rated carriers. If it gets downgraded to a B-rated carrier, I've actually only had to do this once in my career. What we did was we sent out notifications to every agent and policyholder and then asked them if they needed us to remarket it, because sometimes they will have contracts that will require A-rated or better, or A+ or better, A whatever. All of our carriers are A or better, and they've been around a long time. They're very stable, and they are, backed by some of the bigger names that, AIG or whatever. So just because it's E&S doesn't mean it's going to be a subpar company. It just means it's not going to fit your Liberty Mutual. But we will not put you with the company that's, on the verge of going bankrupt. Like, maybe they'll pay your claim, maybe they won't. That's not what E&S is at all. And I think that's a misconception.
I think sometimes when we do that and they think it's not a good company, it's other carriers that don't write it, that's their talking point to try to win your business. To me, years ago, I had training with FINRA. The bond market gets confusing. AAA bonds versus AA plus. I've actually seen people try to make issues out of that. Our own federal government can only get AA plus now. They were downgraded from AAA. That tends to be what most municipalities can get, not all. So the difference is AAA, excellent, excellent, versus AA plus, really, really good. That's on your credit. The general public might see their basis points might go from a 0.05 to 0.15, and the difference between there, and it can vary, but it's something that the general public, they'll hear it, somebody will attempt to make hay with it for their own personal gain. But when you break it down, you are generally not going to see that difference.
Correct.
On the vast majority, and I'll never say all, if I take you to Ashley and we go E&S, you are protected. We're going to look at exceptions and see if your business is doing it. We're going to look to see if we need to add an endorsement on top. But we're going to make sure.
Yeah,
exactly.
And we have access to AM Best, so we check carriers, and it'll give you like their rating outlook. And if it's poor or whatever, maybe we might like be a little bit, on high alert for that. But no, anytime a carrier gets downgraded, notification goes out to us, and then we send notification out. Like I said, I think I've only had to do it like once where it actually got downgraded to a B rated. Everything else is like, oh, it went from A plus to A minus. Nobody cares. Like you said, it's excellent or really good.
And if you and I had a conversation over a B-rated company, we would go, we're just not going to look at it. We're going to go back and look at what protects that customer. Because yours and my final goal is the protection of that business. Families put a lot into their small businesses.
This is your livelihood. This is how you feed your children.
That's exactly right. And I think there's a phenomenon going on as our boomers start to retire. There are a lot of stable businesses that were built, active in the community, that basically goes away because it either doesn't have a tangible product to sell, or finding a buyer now is hard to find. When we lost my dad 5 years ago, he was a general contractor, amazing reputation, but there really wasn't anything tangible there to sell because so much of what he built was based off of his reputation and people coming to him. And those are a lot of these businesses that you're insuring.
Yep.
They might not be sellable, but they are amazing, and they produce six-figure incomes to families to support their families, put their kids through school or college or whatever, and that is where you find that's needed. But once it goes to sell, it becomes a problem. But so we're not going to stick you with somebody that doesn't protect that asset for you.
Yes, exactly. And even in my personal life, my dad, he ran a scrapyard, and he passed away in December. And
sorry to hear that.
Thank you. But now there's nobody left to run the company, so the kids are scrambling because it's still in probate from the original owner passing. And so it's a mess. But now you've got all these people in here who don't know what they're doing, and everybody who had a reputation that built that company is gone. So it's, one, please have a backup. Please train somebody to do your job. Like, they're not going to come take your job, but please have a backup. Somebody that will do your job in case anything happens, because this was, it was unexpected. Kind of unexpected, but protect that business, because, you get, let's say the general contractor, let's say you went in there and you couldn't hammer a nail. And you're like, I'm going to take over my dad's general contracting business. And then you collapse a roof because you don't know anything about roofing. Well, the insurance, yes, we would have to rewrite the insurance because it does not transfer ownership. But at least while, if it was in probate, we might have a fighting chance at getting that roof covered because regardless if we're here or not, business goes on. Whether I'm alive or dead, like business still has to be insured. My agents still have to be taken care of, So life does go on. Protect it.
Yeah. Let's kind of move in towards the relationships. How do you build a strong relationship with your agents? I know that us trusting our underwriters is very important.
People do business with people they like. So, finding your people, not everybody's going to be your people, and that's fine. So really, I think it just starts with getting along with that person because this business is this business and mistakes are going to happen. People are going to be late. Just life is going to happen. So you need to have somebody that you are comfortable communicating with. Once that personal professional relationship is established, now you got to look at how reliable is this person? Can I count on them? It's that slow building of the trust. You know what? She bailed me out. I used to have an agent that would call me like clockwork at like 4:45 on a Friday. And, hey, I need this right now. And I'm like, I know you do. And, it was back when I wrote Garage. And he would call me just every week. And, we built that relationship because I was like, you know what? I really want to go home, but I know Carl's going to call. I was like, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to wait for him to call and I'm going to get that submission out. Then I'm going to go home. So, you need somebody who will work with you like that. So if I went home, who's going to write it? Somebody else that did answer the phone.
Yeah, I see emails from you on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, I love the weekends. I love you. Please don't feel obligated to respond to me on the weekends. I do it because that's the only time I can catch up. Because my husband, he's a tattoo artist. So while he's working, I'm working. And, he's not yelling at me to clean the house or whatever. I don't know what he yells at me about. I don't listen.
My fiance wouldn't listen to me either. I think it'd reach when she go, are you talking? No, baby, I am not talking. Never mind.
Or when he looks up, he goes, huh? Yep, okay.
So let's talk a little bit about what are you seeing right now between the two? You alluded to the fact that standard carriers are starting to creep back into some of, I believe it was the commercial rental markets.
Yes.
So what are we seeing there? And,
I know another team member of mine sees this way more, but I think they're starting to come back into like some contractors. We've lost a couple of renewals to standard markets because they are coming back in. For a while, I think they weren't doing LROs and now they're starting to, and it's just, it's fine. Like I said, it's the nature of the game. There are ebbs and flows, just like there's soft markets, hard markets, it all fluctuates. And right now, prices are actually dropping because we had kind of a pretty mild storm season these past couple of years. So the rates are starting to reflect that. And we are able, especially on the property side, dropping. So we are actually sending out renewals cheaper. Almost every underwriter, on renewals, they'll want like a 5% increase. And it's not us, it's the carrier that wants it. But now, we actually had a team conversation and we're like, do we want to really increase these renewals 5%? Or do we want to just write it for cheaper so we don't lose it altogether? So don't tell my team this, but I shop all my renewals every year anyways because I don't like the 5% increase thing. But also I will like either flat renew or if it's cheaper, I'm not going to lose it. So that is one thing that it's kind of been shifting in the marketplace is just from an underwriting perspective. If everything is getting cheaper, why are we sending out quotes that are 5% higher?
Yeah, and there's a balance. As an agent, as I've developed relationships, I don't want to be shopped. I've built that relationship with you. But there are times when we see a renewal and it'll be, Ashley, we're not trying to go for this.
Nope.
And that's what I appreciate about you. When you look at it, you can know when, and it's hard for the general public to understand this. When I was at one of the larger sides with home and auto, I had actuaries tell me they will bill current customers while giving new customers a break. My response was, the best customer you have is the one you already have. We're not spending marketing dollars to get it. Until guess what I realized? There are marketing dollars spent, but those marketing dollars mean a whole lot more to the agent than it does the large company. The large company with their taxes needs write-offs and other things, and that comes into play where it's a balance between feeding our underwriters with that 5% versus, no, we're going to have to shop because you're going to end up bringing another agent into play here, and we're not just going with what that underwriter wants. And generally we're fine. And with a business, when another agent's been brought into play, there's generally a reason, because that business owner, unlike the home and auto, would rather continue to do business. Here, let's get this renewal. So that means that as an agent, we've probably put in a position that we're going to stop this before it gets started, because you're going to put me in a position, So, I mean, in an example, I've got to feed a lot of people. You get most of my stuff, but others get other stuff. And one of the things that I realized was, as I started feeding people, not always getting all the information. And you start having to go back as that underwriter sees it. And the more the underwriter sees information that she doesn't think, or he, that's accurate for me, then the more they're pushing back and the less they're believing what I'm bringing. And my frustration then comes back to the customer going, you got to give me what I ask you for when I give it to you, because they're going to find out. And that can create and generate somebody working. I had a small case where the underwriter had told me, I'm not shopping that. And it was in the food industry. And they brought me back actual cash value. And I had already told them in their interview, if you want to see a little bit of my business, and I told them, you get most of my business. I'll give you some. I hate actual cash value. You know that. We just went through that.
Yep.
If there's a reason, then I'll sell it. But I want a really good reason why I can't give that customer what I know that customer is going to think. They brought me back actual cash value. I don't know where things are going, but suddenly that project that was hot is no longer hot. I've needed to calm my mind down before I call that underwriter back, because them and a teammate did exactly what I said. If you want an opportunity for my business, here's a quick, easy one. Get me this. And they'd come to me with a very quick, I don't like week to 2 weeks. And that's pretty much what I was given. So, okay, you want this? And you bring me back actual cash value and try to tell me. The first one was, well, now that they've already seen this, I can't go back standard. No, they were standard and standard accepted, and I can't go E&S. Number one, you can, because you're telling me they won't write RCV, and that's what I'm asking you for. My point to all of this is I now believe I now have another agent that's been introduced, that it was a referral. It was never going to be introduced.
Right.
And now that underwriter's now put me in a position that business very well could go with another agent, because I can promise you another agent will find an RCV value on this restaurant business.
And the biggest, really the biggest thing, or what is going to get you RCV versus ACV are going to be your building updates. If you have a building built in 1980 and it's the plumbing, electrical, roof, or HVAC or heating AC, whatever, has never been updated, you're not going to get replacement cost. What the underwriter is looking for is, how well do you maintain your property? Is it, do you take pride in ownership? I think is what it was called. Yes, pride in ownership. Do you take pride in ownership in your property? Because if you're just going to let it go to crap and then light it on fire, no, I'm not giving you replacement costs for you to. It creates a moral hazard. Yeah. I'm not going to give you replacement cost of $500,000 on a building that really is actual cash value $100,000, because now you're going to be tempted to, light a pile of leaves on fire. We can't do that. So but I'm upfront, and I'll ask you, hey, the apps don't show that this has been updated, has it? Because if not, I can't give you replacement cost. And there's not an underwriter out there that can, because it's a carrier guideline, and the carrier won't do it.
We'll talk more off. This was something that was brand new.
A brand new building?
No, but
we'll
discuss
talk
it
off.
offline. There wasn't a lot of premium in this, and it was pushing those doors of 2-week period, which I normally don't bring you stuff at 2 weeks unless it's renewal, and I'm going, hey, Ashley, where's this renewal? And you're like, Clint, I'm already working on it.
What happened was.
Yeah. So, look, how should agents communicate with you? Because I know that a lot of your business is predicated on agents like myself. So I want you to tell them who you're with and what you do for RPS and how they can contact you. Business email or whatever you'd like.
Yeah. So business email. Do you want me to give it to them or just?
Yes.
Oh,
No.
okay.
Give it to them.
Business email is Ashley, ASHLEY _Govea, and it's GOV as in Victor, EA at rpsins.com. My cell phone is 682-446-4928. I do, travel and go see agents and stuff. So if I miss your call, and I don't return it within a day or two, email me, because like Clint said, I do work late nights, I do work weekends, and sometimes I'm driving. So if you text me, I can text back if I miss it or whatever. Texting and driving. Never mind. I didn't say that. But yeah, send me your submissions, send me whatever you have. And if we have to have a conversation about it, if you got to go back to the insured, because I have agents that are like, I've never insured this before. All right, well, here's the questions you need. Here's why I need them. Here's, the process of how it goes. I don't mind teaching. If you're a new agent, I don't mind teaching, because we all had to learn somewhere. And if I can teach you how to do it, then you do it. Then now, we're besties and submissions flow smoother. So, yeah.
And Ashley's with RPS Risk Placement Services.
Yes.
For my agents listening, call her to do business with her, but don't clog the channels for me.
I will hang up on you if Clint calls. Yeah. I'm just kidding.
Let's go to the lightning round.
Okay.
Coffee or energy drinks?
So I actually mix Red Bull with my coffee.
I've never had anybody say both. Well, it wouldn't surprise me. There's a lot of stuff that gets mixed with Red Bull in a bar.
Oh, yeah. Oh, rum chata. I have a peppermint rum chata. I don't do it during the week because after my second drink, I'm not working. I'm like, I'm going to go do something else. So I don't. That
explains a lot. So us agents do have a knack of getting on your nerves.
Look, sometimes it starts early. No, I'm just kidding. No, but in the mornings, coffee. In the afternoons, definitely energy drinks.
Early bird or night owl?
I want to be an early bird so bad, but we just bought a purple mattress, and now I just want to stay in bed all morning. So definitely, I'm more of a night owl.
Hardest deal you've ever placed? And don't say it was something I brought you.
No. So my favorite was actually probably my hardest. So I had a submission where they were buying, it was a horse trailer turned into a bar that they would rent out for events. But they also had a donkey it was a shot donkey. He had a little saddle that had shots in it. And he was being led by a trainer or by a handler. So they would go around and the wedding guest would, take the shots. They were in the little tubes, and they would take the shots or whatever. And I had a hard time placing the liquor liability on that one. And I think ultimately I didn't. But I got the GL. It's just that liquor liability.
Funny? That was pretty common when I was growing up at bars, where they had bar tubs. Mm-hmm. And they had people who walked around with their shot glasses to sell.
Yeah, they have the liquor girls. And the girls are fine. It's the animals. I actually did get animal liability. So if the donkey kicked somebody, we were good. I could not place that liquor because there was no control over how much someone was being served. But that was my favorite. I was like, I want a shot donkey.
I wouldn't want a donkey acting like a jackass in my business. What is one coverage that agents misunderstand that we bring you?
Oh, that one's hard. One that's misunderstood.
Maybe it's, what does one coverage us agents really think we know? That when we talk to you, you think, how do I talk this person off the cliff and get them back?
I think property and excess. So property, and I'm not like...
No, I agree. The LOR,
Yes.
lesser's risk versus when do we go GL in commercial property?
Yes.
We've written both ways.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to tell you that there aren't times as an agent when I see something that I scratch my head and start digging in to go, which is the better way for me to even approach this with Ashley?
Yeah.
Do we want to take it with lessers or do we want to go commercial property?
Well, so lesser's risk is the GL coverage. And then, well, you can be a lesser's risk and have property coverage because you own the building, right?
Yeah.
Where people get kind of mixed, or I guess not confused, I think where they understand the least is one, LROs are very confusing because you're like, here's your building and here's the value and here's, the information. I'm like, okay, well, who are the tenants? And they're like, why? It's an LRO. Well, if your tenant is manufacturing fireworks, that's something I need to know.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times if we're packaging it, if the GL that's writing the lesser's risk won't write the tenant, they won't write the GL. So, and that I think is something a lot of people don't understand. But most of all, they don't understand business personal property. When I get a submission and it's just a BPP limit, but there's nothing about the building, like no updates, no square footage, I actually do still need that information, even if we're just writing the contents, because the condition of the building that our contents is stored in affects rates and coverage. And, if it's a shack by the beach, you're not going to get special RCV, what are we insuring? What are the contents? If it's a retail store that, sells clothing, okay, good. Like, how big of a fire hazard is this? So, what's being stored, especially in warehouses. We get a lot of warehouses. I need to know what's in those warehouses. But, you'll send a BPP with just a limit. No, I need to know the building updates. I need to know the year it was built. I need to know all that. And even if it didn't matter, I still have to put it in my rating system. So it'll give me a rate. So I know it's a huge pain in the bum, but it is a necessary evil. And excess. A lot of people don't understand that we have to underwrite the excess as if we were writing the GL. So I do need to know what we're insuring. If it's a contractor, send me a supplemental. The one you fill out to get the GL quote is fine. I'm not picky about what carrier it comes from. I just need to know their operations so I can place them with the right excess market.
Good. So if you weren't in insurance, what would you be doing?
So before I got started in insurance, I was actually going to school to be a paralegal. I wanted to be a lawyer, but children and got married and whatever. But no, I wanted to be a paralegal because I learned that paralegals are actually the ones that do all the work. And I love doing like research and, just kind of discovery type stuff. Like I want to know about stuff. I always want to know something. I want to learn. So I think had my life taken a different, trajectory, I probably would have been a paralegal.
So what is the best advice you've ever received?
Oh my God. It was actually from my dad. He told me, because I'm not going to get like too personal. Me and my mom don't have the best relationship. And my dad said, you expect too much. He said, you have to meet people where they are. You can't expect more from somebody than who they are or what they are. Meet them where they are. And that's it. That's what you get from them. And because the more expectations you have, the more you're going to be disappointed. So,
Ashley, thank you for coming on and just sharing some real insight into how this side of the industry actually works. I think that this is one of those conversations that I know a lot of our small businesses probably did not find this the way we do of how do you grow a business, but it is important as to how they make their living and their understanding that's important, and it makes a big difference to them. And to everyone listening, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Genuine Business Stories. If you've enjoyed this episode, please make sure to share it with a friend, another business owner, or someone in your network. If you'd like to support this show, we want you to reach out to Lone Star Community Radio. This is only possible because of Dick and the show. This is a nonprofit, and sponsorships and donations are very important. We love to tell real stories about real businesses on this show. And until next time, keep showing up, keep building, and keep it genuine. Thank you.